Good morning, one and all. Myself, Kanika Malik, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AIML Department, from ABES Engineering College, Ghaziabad. So, friends, today I'm going to talk about foundations of machine learning. This is a continuation of my previous topic, that was machine learning. So, as we all studied earlier, what was machine learning? It is basically a subset of AI, artificial intelligence, in which we try to make our computers or machines similar to act like human brains. That means through our techniques and algorithms, we are providing them the capability to think like a human brain, though it is not practically possible. But what we try to do through maximum type of mechanism or through maximum techniques, we try that they achieve the capability like human brain. So without undergoing more into it, now we will classify machine learning. So as the name is depicting, what is machine learning? Now we will classify them and categorize them. There are basically 4 types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement learning. So talking about the first one, the basic definition is supervised learning and is the technique where machines are learned to work on labeled training set and that act as supervisor and then predict the output based on that data. So as we all know, supervisor means someone who is helping the person to do anything. So as we are seeing here, supervisor means the labeled data that would act as a supervisor to it. In machine learning, when we are working on different data set, we have 2 types of data. One is known as training data and the other is known as test data. They are nothing different, but some of the data which has been picked from the input data. Training data is this set of features or attributes or some values which help our data to predict the correct output. As every day we are going into our classes and teaching the students, at that time we are helping our students and acting as supervisor and providing them some notes, some video links, some quizzes, something which would be helping them to give their output. Similarly, in supervised learning techniques, what we do, we give some training data and it acts as supervisor and then we predict the output accordingly. So as you are seeing here, the aim of a supervised learning algorithm would be to find a mapping function to map the input variable that would be depicted as X with the output variable denoted by Y. So most of the techniques used are such type of supervised learning techniques. Example techniques of supervised would be classification and regression. Then the second type of basic learning would be unsupervised. As again the name is showing, here there would be no supervisor. So that's why it is known as unsupervised. So models are created without any labeled data to act as supervisor and simply discover hidden patterns from the data. The basic examples would be clustering and association techniques. In detail, I will explain through the figure. Then third type of learning would be what? Semi-supervised learning. What is semi-supervised learning? It is a method that uses a small amount of labeled data and a large amount of unlabeled data to train a model. In earlier examples, I have shown you that there are 2 types of data again, labeled and unlabeled. Labeled means which has been provided some values or some tags and it helps us to in the prediction of output. But unlabeled means which is scattered type of data and it does not have any value. So in semi-supervised, we take small percentage of labeled data and large percentage of unlabeled data to train a particular model. That's why it is known as semi-supervised, not completely supervised. Okay. The example techniques are text classification and anomaly detection. So this was the third one. It is a rarely types of learning technique which is used in machine learning areas. Okay. Now fourth one, students, are reinforcement learning. What is it? It is a self-teaching type of machine learning that necessarily learns by trial and error method and the performance is analyzed in the form of reward and punishment. What is it? It is a fourth type of mechanism in which an agent is present there and it interacts with the environment. By giving some of the input values, it tries to predict different outputs. So basically it is a type of trial and error method where we can get different outputs, and that different outputs can be of two types. Either when agent will interact, he or she will get a positive output, that would be the positive feedback and known as reward. And the other cases that it would get a negative feedback or negative output, that would be known as punishment. So by the figure I will explain later. The basic examples falling under this category are text summarization and machine translation. Okay, so these were the four basic types of ML techniques: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement learning. Moving further, I will say, now this is the figure of supervised learning technique. Before explaining it, I will just read out the theoretical portion. This is what, in here, in supervised learning, we have been given some set of input features denoted by capital X. So x1 to xn are the different instance value of input values. Now we want to find out the target value, that would be depicted as capital Y. Then what it is given? A set of training examples where the values for the input features and the target features are given for each example. And we have to find a new example where only the values for the input features are given. That means some training data set has been given that would contain some of the feature values, some of the example values, and by the help of that training example, I have to predict my output value. So this is the case of supervised learning. Now here I will tell you. So going back to the figure, this is the supervised learning case. These are the input values. Now these values would pass on to a learning algorithm that would be of supervised type, and we have to find out a output value Y that would be dependent on this training data value, that is X. That means already some training data has been given along with the value that would act as a supervisor, and this value will passed on to our model value, and that model or learning algorithm will convert it into a output value. So this is the basic core idea of supervised learning algorithm. Okay, so if I talk about the types of supervised learning, again it can be of two types. When we are talking about the discrete values, either yes or no, true or false, male or female, primary or secondary colors, that would fall under the category of classification when our variables are fixed. But if I talk about the continuous variables, when our Y is having some continuous values, that would be known as regression technique. So these two basic techniques fall under the category of classification and under the category of supervised learning. So as I was telling you about classification, so this is the basic definition of classification, that it is the type of algorithms where when the output variable is categorical in nature. One example has been given when we are analyzing the income and the saving pattern of any particular customer. So as you can see, there are two types of data in this particular graph. One data is depicted in the form of a circle with a bar in between. That would be the category of high risk customer. And the other data is shown in the form of a circle having a cross lines or bar lines under it. That would be the category of low risk customer. So here we can clearly identify the patterns of these two category of customers. So it would come under the classification supervised learning algorithm. Next, talking about regression. So such algorithms are used to predict the output value of the continuous variable by showing the relation between input variable and output variable. So here we can see the example that if I have to analyze the price of any car, given the two attributes, given some of the attributes of car. So X would be the car attributes, which is mileage. And if I compare the price of that particular car through the mileage of this car, so I will get a figure like this, and showing the relation between both variables by this equation, that is Y is equal to W of X plus W naught. So this is a type of continuous variable that would not have any fixed value, but it will have the value between some range. That for example, if the mileage of a particular car falls between this to this kilometer per hour, or some figure like this, some unit like this. So the predicted output of that car would be lie in the range of this to this. So such examples and such algorithms come under the category of regression. So hope both the types of supervised learning algorithm, classification and regression are clear through these two examples of graph. Then moving further to the unsupervised learning, this is an example of unsupervised learning where I am taking some input instance values as x1, x2, x3, passing on through a learning algorithm and giving me the output in the form of a clusters. So unlike of the supervised learning algorithm, here the output which I am getting that is in the form of a clusters, and the different three colored clusters you can see in the output figure. One is shown by the red or the dark pink color, then this second category, then third category. Again, if I talk about type of data, unsupervised learning basically deals with unlabeled data that has not been provided with any of the tags or any of the input value. So clustering and association both are the example of unsupervised learning algorithm. Then moving on to the third category, through the help of a diagram, you can see here in the A type of diagram, I have been given the two types of data objects, input data objects. One is shown through a circle and the other one is shown through the filled triangle. This is the label data. Okay. Label data corresponds to the figure C, supervised learning, as both categories can be easily classified or categorized or separated through this classification plane shown here. In the B figure, I have been shown the labeled and unlabeled data together. That means here you can see all four types of notations or the figures are of different types and they have been separated like this. So this is the mixed of labeled and unlabeled data, and which is corresponding to the semi-supervised type of, that is third type of machine learning technique. Okay, so hope it must be clear through the figure again. The final types of learning which I was telling you is the reinforcement learning, where this is the figure. See, here in figure you can see two things. One is the robot type of structure who is the agent, and this agent will interact with this particular environment. After interacting with this environment, what it will do? It will perform some actions. For example, move, halt, or anything you can say, any example you can take. After performing this particular action, it will interact within this environment, and with the help of this environment, it will get some output and it will move on to the next state. And that output would be in the form of a reward or the punishment. Okay. So this type of hit and trial method or learning mechanism or self-feedback mechanism is known as reinforcement technique of machine learning. So here you can see the basic idea. It is based on hit and trial process. The agent takes the action and changes its state. So earlier, if agent belonged to the state depicted by capital S, so next it will move on to the state ST+1 along with a positive feedback known as the reward, or with the negative feedback known as the punishment received to it. Now, students, what it does with the help of this these two things, positive and negative feedback, it simply helps us to predict the scenario of the next state, that is ST+1. So what we have to do, if we have to do some changes in our initial stage or in the existing state, that means we must have got the negative feedback or punishment. Then we will improve our state and then we will move on to the next state. So in this type of learning, agent plays the overall important role, who will interact with the environment and tell us the basic idea of the actions which are to be taken. Then one more thing, agent may also get some award late. After getting the late reward or late feedback, it may update its state accordingly. The environment where the agent is interacting is stochastic. Stochastic means it's random. There is no fixed attributes. There are no fixed attributes, no fixed scenario, no values, and agent needs to explore it to reach the maximum positive rewards. As I can say that when if you are entering into a new company or organization and you are going there to work, so earlier you don't know anything about that. So any particular head of the organization or any boss would be there who will help you, act you as a supervisor, but you yourself would learn there that how is the working scenario, what is the work culture of the company or the MNC where you are going, and you in initial 6 months or 1 year, you work there with the help of a hit and trial method, that you complete your projects on your particular deadlines, or you do your work given to you by the boss or the seniors, and then you learn accordingly. And after doing that work, you also get some positive feedback or a negative feedback, and you learn through that particular process. At that time, you are the agent acting at that organization, and you learn through that mechanism. So hope you the process is clear through this mechanism. So these are some of the references which I have taken, and from where I have taken. So these were all this was the basic idea of all 4 types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement learning.